Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. Today's guest is Perryn Carroll. Perryn and I know each other from the legal world. However, she's no longer practicing law. She is the executive director of Jimmy Hill Missions. And everyone's heard of Jimmy Hill Missions. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How did you end up where you are? Why don't you take us on a little journey through your life from lawyer to what you're doing now?
Well, as you mentioned, I used to practice law, and for 28 years practiced law with my husband, Mike Carroll, and our office was downtown. Most people may remember when you were leaving downtown on 3rd Avenue North, you would go by the post office, and the Jimmy Hill Mission was right there on the corner.
Gray building.
Yes. And,
for years.
And I asked someone, why are all these people always out on the sidewalk? And they said, well, that's the Jimmy Hill Mission. And I have to say, I couldn't imagine anything worse than being alone and not having a home. So I said, honey, we're going to go down and volunteer at the Jimmy Hill Mission. And like the wonderful husband that he is, he said,
did
okay.
What he was told.
He did. And so in the 1990s, we became volunteers at the Jimmy Hill Mission when it was still downtown. I was asked to be on the board of directors and have served on the board on and off for the last 30 plus years. And then 2 years ago, in the spring of 2022, the mission found itself without an executive director. And so I said, I practice law. I've got some flexibility. I can go down there and help out and fill in the gap until we find, the perfect person to lead the Jimmy Hill Mission. And it wasn't too long after that I thought, this is where I'm called to be.
And now that is where you are.
And so that's now where I am. I equate it to going from a career to a calling. Mm-hmm. If you had come into our law office and said, hey, we need someone to come down and lead Jimmy Hill Mission, I would have said, but I'm a lawyer. I don't know how to lead a mission. Mm-hmm.
And you were in a state?
I did civil litigation and estate and business planning.
So you're way on the other side of the moon in doing what you're doing. Well, that's a tremendous story. And y'all relocated, I think. Jimmy Hill Mission is no longer in that gray building.
That's correct. And so many people still think of us as being downtown. But in 2005, the city came to us and said, we're trying to redevelop downtown. And of course, we weren't the most desirable tenant right there on that prominent corner. And so they offered us the old Thomas School property on a lease. And that's out by the Birmingham Waterworks, just past Sloss Furnace. And so we moved out there and first began our mission there.
So you're on 1st Avenue North?
We're just off 1st Avenue North, yes.
Okay. And do you, what is housed there? Do you have housing there? What all goes on there?
That's our main location of our downtown men's center, the Shapura Men's Center. We do house around 100 men there in our dormitory. We also have a learning center, Stewart Learning Center on campus that Jeff State comes and teaches all of our clients everything from literacy, because we still have people in 2024 who cannot read and write. Adults, yes. To GED, to short-term work certificates that lead to real living wage jobs, to community college classes.
And is the goal to try to take that person from their inability to live independently and get them to a position in life where they can?
From dependence to an independent contributing member of the community. And Jimmy Hill Mission is a very comprehensive program. It's a very structured program. When clients come to our campus, they're not just coming and going and, get 3 hots and a cot, as we say, and then go out and continue the habits that have landed them in the street in the first place. When you come to Jimmy Hill Mission, you're entering a program to change the trajectory of your life. We have full counselors on staff There's a curriculum that the clients attend class 5 days a week. Then they attend Learning Center. They receive individual counseling, financial accountability and counseling, job readiness skills, and eventually housing assistance when they're ready to go out and live on their own.
Where do you draw these people that are in these circumstances from? I mean, you can drive downtown on any given night, but that individual has got to want to avail themselves to the services you provide, I would suspect. Otherwise, you're backing up and you are just three hots in a cot.
That's right. They have to be committed to making the changes necessary. But what we found, and our clients come mostly from Central Alabama, but they do come from all over the state of Alabama. Most of our clients have come from what we call unfortunate circumstances. They were born into multi-generational dysfunction and addiction. You know, originally we were seeing people who were mostly children of alcoholics that had learned alcoholism at home. Now we're seeing children of drug addicts that have grown up around drugs and have been impacted by that.
They don't know another way of life. They think that is the way life is supposed to be lived.
That's right. When Dad pops a beer, when he's happy, when he's sad, when he's angry, for any and every reason, then child learns that behavior.
And the idea is to modify that behavior and redirect those brain cells in another direction.
That's right. When you know better, you do better.
Very well put. I'll have to use that sometime. We're going to take a break. Don't leave me. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We're talking with Perryn Carroll, Jimmy Hill Mission. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We're talking about Jimmy Hill Missions and the services they provide, but we've just touched and scratched the surface of that. So most people, myself included, think of Jimmy Hill Mission as a men-only facility, but that's not necessarily the case. Tell us a little bit about, more about the programs available and the ancillary places for women. I suppose you have adolescents, sometimes teenagers. They're probably isolated, or not necessarily isolated, but separated in different groups or segments. Just talk to us about what all is available.
Well, in addition to our downtown men campus, we also have a rural campus for men, Royal Pines, in Blount County. And that gives a unique, different setting for men that need to make adjustments in their life. It's very peaceful. We house 45 men at Royal Pines. We also have Jessie's Place, named after Jessie Hale, Jimmy Hale's widow, which is our women and children's facility in downtown Birmingham. And we do have women there that have children and women that don't have children.
So there was a person named Jimmy Hale?
Yes, there was.
Who was he?
Jimmy Hale was Birmingham's town drunk, our Otis, so to speak. And on a very cold night, Jimmy wandered into a church service in downtown Birmingham. And everyone knew him. He was quite boisterous. And they said, "Jimmy, it's cold outside. You can come in and get warm, but if you interrupt the service, we're going to have to make you leave." So Jimmy, in wanting to warm up, sat quietly and began to listen. And what he heard that night truly touched his heart, and he accepted Jesus Christ as his Savior. Now, this wasn't a fleeting thing on his part. Jimmy, from that day, never touched another drop of alcohol. And he set out to form the Jimmy Hill Mission to help those on the street that had been where he was.
And what year was this going on in, roughly?
Well, he started the mission in 1944. This is our 80th anniversary this year.
Wow. So I never thought in terms of there's a real person named Jimmy Hale. It's sort of synonymous with a homeless shelter.
Yes.
Are there other Jimmy Hale missions in other parts of this state or parts of the country?
There are not. We are a member of a coalition organization called Citygate, and there are missions similar to Jimmy Hale all around the country. Jimmy Hale mission here in Alabama is unique in a couple of respects. One is our comprehensive approach to healing. Our program focuses on 5 pillars of good health: physical health, mental health, relationship health, vocational health, and spiritual health. We're also unique in that all of our services at Jimmy Hale are completely free.
Yeah.
And so that it's never a barrier for someone coming off the street to get the help that they need.
Well, that begs the question, how is it funded?
We are completely privately funded. We're not a United Way agency. We are a community foundation supported by the community, and we couldn't do what we do without the community support.
And what kind of budget does that require?
It requires about a $6 million budget a year.
Is that for all locations?
That's for all locations and all of our activities. And in addition to our 3 locations, we also are the warming station for the city of Birmingham.
Yeah, along with Boutwell?
There is no Boutwell anymore.
Oh, that's over?
Boutwell is over. The city came to us 3 years ago and said, we need help in this area. We want to care for people on nights when it's below freezing. Will you help us? And of course, we said yes. And it's a wonderful partnership with the city, but we do the warming station for the city of Birmingham now. And it's usually 30 nights a year. Sometimes we have round-the-clock warming stations because the temperature doesn't rise above freezing for several days. But through that activity, we meet and develop a relationship with a lot of our most vulnerable citizens on the street, and that opens the door for them to come in to receive our services and really make the changes needed.
Do you get some help with the funding from the city?
Indirectly, we do. The city does provide police officers for us, and they're very supportive. There is some federal money for warming stations that comes to One Roof, and One Roof does share that with us depending upon the needs.
What's One Roof?
One Roof is our coalition in Birmingham that helps with different homeless and vulnerable population services among the different agencies. We have a very good collaboration in Birmingham so that we try not to duplicate services and try to give the most efficient use of services so that more gets to those that need it the most.
What would be a typical number of individuals that you are providing? I assume it's pretty maxed out most of the time.
We're on a wait list just about all the time. And
that's for the campus downtown and for the other places?
That's for all of our campuses, yes. And we serve around 160, 175 people every night of the year, every year. We house up to 300 in the warming stations on the coldest nights.
And there's room?
Oh.
It's cozy.
Yes, yes.
You know, it helps helps with the warming.
We have people everywhere. You know, we've had to open up different rooms on our campus just to put more cots in. But our philosophy is no one will ever be turned away.
And I take it that you're always asking and wanting and needing volunteers and things of that nature.
We do need volunteers. There's a lot of ways to help. We make volunteering at Jimmy Hale very easy, particularly for our younger generation. They need that experience. You can come serve meals. You can serve our food. You can bring food. We have mentoring activities. We have weekend activities like 3-on-3 basketball. We want it to be a good experience for people to volunteer.
We'll explore that a little more when we come back from break.
Okay.
This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We're discussing a very serious issue in our society, but particularly as it relates to us locally. This show airs in a number of counties surrounding Birmingham, Jefferson County area. And I'm assuming you draw from not just the Jefferson County area. Are you limited to?
Oh no, our clients come from all over the state.
But statewide?
Yes.
Not out of state?
No, typically, I mean, if someone's coming through and they're in need, we're not going to turn them away.
Well, what do you estimate our homeless population to be in the greater Birmingham area, I'll call it?
Locally in Jefferson County, we have over 900 documented homeless, chronically homeless individuals. Each year we do a point-in-time count in January. So that's how many individuals were located on that one particular night. I can tell you without hesitation that the numbers are higher than that.
How do you locate? Just driving around?
Right. But we know that there are people that are encampments. We know that there are people that...
and you know where the encampments are?
We do, but there's also people that are living behind dumpsters to stay warm, that are in alleys that we don't locate on that one night. It's just impossible.
But you know, I've learned there are some people that want to be there.
There are some people that have mental conditions that feel most comfortable in that environment.
And I know you don't involuntarily pull somebody in.
Oh, no.
Otherwise, it wouldn't work. Because
No.
if they don't want to be there, and if they don't take part in the program as outlined, I presume they're asked to leave.
That's correct. We do have very strict standards because there are others there trying to do better.
Yeah. Well, if you had to identify a demographic from which these people come from, other than dysfunctional homes, as you've explained before, how would you identify your demographic of people? I mean, it's not, people seem to think that homeless people all come from some part of town that is dilapidated and run down, when in fact, there are Homewood people, there are Vestavia people,
Absolutely.
there are Mountain Brook people that are homeless. And so, is that an accurate statement in terms of the demographic?
Absolutely. There is no demographic.
Yeah.
Homelessness does not discriminate. Addiction does not discriminate. It can strike and does strike everywhere. If you are a family that has not had a member that has been touched by addiction or activities outside their control like that, then you are very, very fortunate. We serve doctors, lawyers, CPAs, construction workers, nurses, every profession. We serve young and old. We've had clients that come to us and say, no one else will take me. They say I'm too old. And then we have 19-year-olds that have made a tragic turn in their life and they have nowhere else to turn.
Very sad.
It is sad.
Well, it's sad and it's uplifting that you offer the services that you offer, and I'm sure it's very fulfilling to see someone on the back end of your program, for lack of a better expression, graduate into some independency, I suppose is the right word.
It's a wonderful feeling.
Well,
last year we served 644 individuals. That's 644 people that are no longer on the streets without hope and without a place to turn.
And what is the average length of stay for a person, from start to finish, without any hiccups, playing by the rules? Because I know addiction and relapse are like hand in hand.
That's right.
They go together, so don't be shocked if somebody relapses,
Right.
because that's going to happen. What would be an average stay?
Our initial program is 15 weeks. So everyone that comes and reaches graduation stays 15 weeks. We encourage, because of relapse, because we understand addiction, we encourage them to stay in our continuum of care program.
I was going to say, you have an aftercare.
We do. That's a step up. In continuum of care, clients are going back to work back to school, back into the community, but they're still staying at Jimmy Hill Mission. They're still receiving weekly counseling. They still have structure and a safety net. After 4 to 6 months, they've built up a savings account so that they can pay an apartment deposit and a utility deposit to be able to go out and live. We have 2 communities, one in Birmingham, one in Coleman, where clients can then move off campus into off-campus affordable housing that's sponsored by Jimmy Hill Mission, where they take that next step toward complete independence. They're living on their own, but they still come in every other week to receive counseling, to receive financial accountability counseling, to help them to become stable, independent members of the community.
So, very briefly, because we're about out of time, what would be a day in the life of an individual who wakes up at Jimmy Hill Mission?
You wake up early, you have morning chores, you have breakfast, you have purpose-driven life class first thing in the morning. Then you go to our Reclaiming Hope program for 2 hours. 11 o'clock we have lunch. After lunch you'll go to study hall, to the Jeff State Learning Center, or to your individual counseling session. In the afternoon, we have options for faith opportunities. We don't prescribe faith. We give them options to select themselves. In the evening, we have recreation before we have evening chores and lights out.
At what time?
At 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds almost like my day. Thank you so much for being here. And please go to their website. And if you can make a contribution, it sounds like that would be a good way for you to help. And if you want to, you know a loved one who needs some assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to Jimmy Hill Mission. Thanks, Perryn, for your dedication and services to this worthy cause. And
thank you.
Thank you for being here as well.
Thank you.
This is Our Issues Birmingham. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next Sunday.